Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I have accumulated quite a few books since I last did a book haul, so why not just show them to you. Some of these titles you will have already seen in my reading vlogs, but only briefly. I will not have explained to you what they are actually about. And others of the books I'm going to show you today will be completely new to you. And even though I didn't think I had that many books to show you, I have 13 titles today and 2 more on the way, which I will show you in another video because they are part of a TBR that I'm doing for the autumn readathon, which will be happening in October. So I will get to those books in another video. I feel like this camera is not angled correctly. Anyway, so let me start with the first 2 books that I'm currently reading. The first one is Without Merit by Colleen Hoover. I started this one this morning and I'm already halfway through it because I love it. Colleen Hoover can do no wrong in my eyes, and this is her newest release. So this one is about Merit, who lives with a family in a church, which is very bizarre but very original, I think. And then it's about love, of course, and doubt and identity, and it's just a typical Colleen Hoover book that I really appreciate. It's good comfort read, I think. And the other book I'm currently reading is this one, Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. This book is completely different because it's about a main character who is my age. She's alone and she suffers from some kind of social phobia, so that she prefers to be alone. She works, but that's all. She never socializes and she never mingles with people. But obviously that changes during this narrative. And also we realize that this main character, Miss Oliphant, has a quite depressive and disturbing past. One of my favorite classics is Jane Eyre, and lately I've been in the mood to reread that book this autumn, but the only copy that I have is a hardback, which is not that easy to carry around with me, and it's one of those very beautiful cloth-bound hardbacks from Penguin, which is very fragile. Anyway, I decided to get me a more handy version of the book, which is this one, a paperback, and it's gorgeous. It's the Penguin English Library edition, and now I finally get to reread my favorite classic. I think this will be my 3rd time reading it. October has been kind of a special month for me when it comes to this next author, who is Danish, and the next 2 books I'm going to show you are in Danish. I can't really tell you whether they are out in English. At least the first one here isn't, because this one was published in Denmark yesterday as I'm filming this. But this is Blækhat by Sissel-Jo. I guess you could translate it into Inkhat if you had to translate it into English. You will see in my reading vlog for October that I actually went to have my book signed by her, which is very exciting. And then besides from this one, which I've already read and I loved it, I had to get me another book of hers and just see if I like it as well, even though this one is crime. I'm not the best at crimes, but this one is Svalens Graf, also by Sissel-Jo, and I have no idea how to translate that into English, but I believe this is her 2nd novel, if I'm not mistaken. Then we have a book I've already read and didn't really like, unfortunately, but of course I would like to show it to you anyway, and that is The Roanoke Girls by Amy Engel. I have a lot of feelings about this book. As I said, I didn't really like it, but it does have some appeal to me in some aspects, but all in all I just didn't find this story plausible, and I was a little bit disappointed that it's not at all about the Roanoke myth, the scary myth that we know from American history. It's not about that at all. It's more about a family that's called Roanoke, and it's just, I really didn't like it. But maybe you've read it, maybe you've loved it. I see a lot of people on Goodreads rating this amazingly, so I might be the only person on earth not liking this book, but here you have it anyway. So as the Roanoke Girls, the next book is also kind of a scary story, if I'm not mistaken. This one I haven't read yet, but that is The Upstairs Room by Kate Murray Brown. And as far as I remember, it's about a family who moves into a house that is kind of haunted, and then we follow the story from the perspective of some of the children, I believe. But as I said, I haven't read this one yet, so, and I haven't heard too much about it anywhere. I stumbled across it on Instagram one day and I looked it up and I thought it sounded interesting, so here we have it. Next book is from a favorite author of mine, and that is the Swedish, I believe, Fredrik Backman. So this book is in Danish, but he's the author of Britt Marie Was Here, as well as A Man Called Over, and a lot of other amazing, funny, endearing books. So when I saw this at the bookstore, I didn't even know it was out, but when I saw it, I immediately grabbed it and I'm excited to read it. I think it's about a village, a fictional village, and then it's about the characters in that village, and I don't know too much, but I only needed to know that Fredrik Backman was the author, and then I was sold. And then we have this one, which I'm sure you heard about. It's one of those books that's all around on BookTube, and I fell for it. I mean, I'm not that much into young adult, and this is one of those. But when I read about it and realized that it's about video games, I was drawn to it. I kind of got the vibes from it that it's kind of like Ready Player One by Ernest Cline, and I really like that book. So I'm excited to see if this one will live up to my expectations as well. I have no idea, but here you have it, and it is quite a stunning, colorful cover. I am approaching the end of my pile. The next book is a book I adored, and I just can't tell you how much I loved it, and that is This Must Be the Place by Maggie O'Farrell, which is a book that takes place in different places in the world. It's told from different perspectives, and it's just a brilliant story about family and identity. And I just really loved it. It's a very heartwarming story, and even though it's quite long, I flew through it. So this one is a keeper, and I'm highly recommending it. Then we have September's biggest release, I think. Maybe it's not the biggest one, but at least it's pretty famous, and that is Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng. It seems like everyone and their brother got their hands on this book in September, and I was one of those people. This one I got because I read her other novel, which I will go find now. Here it is. I read this novel some years ago, Everything I Never Told You, and I loved it. It's a very underplayed crime story, which is more about the family and the aftermath of the crime than it's about the crime itself, and I really liked it. So this one, I think, is about a village of some kind and different houses and different families. It's just about this neighborhood in general, and then it's about little fires everywhere. So I assume it's also going to be some kind of a dramatic story. And I have been told that Reese Witherspoon has bought the rights to make this into a movie or a TV show. I can't remember, but that makes me even more excited to read it. I have 2 books left, and one I have read, one I haven't read. So let's start with the one I've already read and absolutely loved. Another one of those novels that just blew me away, and that is My Absolute Darling by Gabrielle Talent. Now, this is the author. You can't see it, but it's kind of a funny book in the way that it has this blurb that is completely covering the author's name, which is not very good. But the book in itself is really, really good. It's about this main character who is a 14-year-old girl. She lives alone with her father, and we quickly realize that her father is very brutal in his upbringing of this young girl. And then the very last book I have to show you is this gorgeous red book, which is The Leavers by Lisa Ko. This one is about a boy, as far as I remember, who lives in Asia, I believe, but then he is adopted to America, and then it's about him living in America and growing up over there. It's also about a conflict of cultures, obviously. I might be completely mistaken, but I'm pretty sure that's what this is about. Yeah. Okay, so the boy is from China. He's 11 years old, and he goes to America, as I said, in New York, actually. So that's all I know, but I've heard amazing things about it, and I thought that it was about time that I actually get it and read it. So that is it for my book haul this time around. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you ever so much for watching, and until my next video, happy reading!